Cynthia, as the cartoon of the show, I felt it was my duty to talk about this specific topic. Why? Let me tell you a personal anecdote before we start. You see, when I was a child, there wasn't a lot of things on TV. Saturday morning cartoons were not a thing where I lived, but I did have a TV evangelist, televangelist, where I would watch a whole freaking hour of evangelical programs just to watch a 3 minute short cartoon called Puntito. In English, that is jot for you in the United States. And it was nothing but a short cartoon with a biblical teaching at the end, or a Christian teaching. And why am I talking about this? Why am I telling you this personal story of me spending a whole hour waiting to watch a very short Christian cartoon? Because for me, it was attractive. It was interesting, and it was one of the many things that made me fall in love with religion. Because I'm sure you know that I was a religious person for a long time. And this article that we're checking today, which is, by the way, from goerie.com, please check it, guys. It explains, and let me quote: confirmation in the Catholic Diocese of Erie will no longer be a 1 year undone foundation for faith, and it won't be limited to the classroom. Ooh, interesting. Sorry, I'm mixing Spanish. This is dioceses. In English, I guess it's diocese. Diocese? I
Diocese,
will assume
yes.
that's
Yeah.
it. Cool. Not only is changing the timing for confirmation in the church from 11th to 9th grade, it's also introducing new programs for children before they are confirmed and for teenagers after confirmation to help root them in faith. And this is the key part of this. They are desperate for children and they want to root them in faith. Let me keep reading. Children in 6th through 8th grades will learn and share about their faith in brief small group sessions. After confirmation, teens will continue to meet in small groups, work with mentors to tackle faith, spiritual, and life issues, and have opportunity to serve, both in the church and in mission work. And as I was saying, this is obviously a desperate attempt to attract children to their roles because they know that the younger you begin, the more successful indoctrination is. And did you know that according to research, by age 10, 17% of children have left the Catholic Church, and by the time they are in confirmation or graduating age, that number jumps to almost 70%.
Hmm.
So obviously, the Catholic Church is desperate and they are looking for ways to keep children and indoctrinate them from childhood. So, who wants to take it from here?
Well, that is some fracking bull concerning the Catholic Church. But then again, I definitely would say that this particular whole thing comes because, of course, they're losing a lot of people for obvious reasons. The Catholic Church has a very long history of scandals concerning sexual abuse, kid rape, nun rape, rape, just raping people. That's and not even just like sexually, but also raping people of their money and also of their time, in my opinion, because a lot of people spend a lot of time in these particular places where they're not necessarily being taught anything that is going to be helpful to them going forward in their lives. And that's my take on it. But I definitely want to hear from the panel. Genevieve, what do you have to say about this whole article and what's happening with the early age of confirmation of children?
Yeah, so funny thing, when I first opened this article and I saw there's that picture of them taking a selfie, my mind immediately went to George Carlin and Dogma, and it feels like this was really sort of like their Buddy Christ moment of
Mm.
rebranding and getting with the times with these hip kids. And I think that they had mentioned that they wanted to go from like these long, drawn out like classroom settings to a more like a more personal and like short and a a much more friendly format, I think, for what they think the kids want today. Um, and while I did laugh at the beginning because of course I thought of George Carlin, why wouldn't I? Um, it ultimately is it's kind of disappointing. It's definitely a bummer because we're right that this does come down to the fact that they just want to ensure that these children are indoctrinated more successfully. I was actually really stoked to see that by the time they're 12, 67% have already said no thank you. Um, and I shouldn't be surprised that they're trying to change that, but it feels like a win, and they're trying to take this one away from me.
Oh, wow. Possibly it's a step in the right direction. Step in the right direction for the children. However, it seems like the Catholic Church is scrambling themselves. Cindy, what you got on this, hon?
Um, yeah, as you said, Catholics are on the decline. This feels like the last jolts of a dying fish.
Mm.
Um, it's the latest attempt by white old men to keep their power as much as possible by keeping children indoctrinated. And from the article and from what Theo said, it looks like the Catholic Church has gained a better understanding of human psychology because um, they they try to indoctrinate kids younger. They also use peer pressure because most of the animations and events are group based. So uh, if you don't feel like believing, then you have the peer pressure upon you, and so from their point of view, that's quite smart. Um, and my mind was was going to the idea about cannibalism, which starts getting younger and younger with the Catholic Church. Um, but the main issue I have here is that although I agree with what Genevieve said, I think I'm afraid that this might be a response to um, children getting more and more knowledge about who they are, and indoctrinating them earlier makes them more prone to avoid all LGBTQ issues. I mean, if you try to indoctrinate children very young, then they haven't figured out most of the cases who they are, if they are trans, if they are um, uh, bi, if they are gay, and so making sure that they are into the religion before that happens um, makes their hold stronger to the kids, and that's what I'm afraid of. It's that um, this might impact LGBTQ children more than the others.
Hmm.
I mean, the
Um,
Catholic. Oh,
no,
sorry,
go ahead,
Cynthia.
Teo. No, go
I
ahead.
was
Go ahead.
just I was just going to say that the Catholic Church has known this for ages, and they are just being more obvious. But there is a reason why the Catholic Church has had some specific researchers or universities. It's not because they want to enlighten humanity, it's because they need knowledge to keep power, to keep control. And this psychology is one of the ways how they know and they learn and understand how to indoctrinate people. And they just have learned the younger you start, the more time that you're going to keep them, and they have realized that schools need should be changing. I was reading about something else, and I found out about how schools are supposed to be, start being shorter and start changing into a more how to call it, a shorter way of working. And the Catholic Church has realized that children are not going to be 1 hour and a half entertained in a classroom, listening up an old guy talking about whatever. They need shorter things. They got used to TikTok, 30 seconds, or you get them in 30 seconds, or you lose their attention. And the
Hmm.
Catholic Church realized that and is trying to adapt desperately to this. And it's going to be hard. Luckily, it's going to be hard for them because they are still this old-fashioned group of old guys. But the points that they realize and that they are not being, they are being very obvious. so they are not being subtle at all in this agenda that they have, is worrying, and we should be paying attention to this.
It's kind of funny. Let me ask the panel. I think that you were Teo. Genevieve, I don't necessarily, I think that I've heard you say previously that, excuse me, I drank some water and it did not happen. It did not do what it was supposed to do. But I believe, Genevieve, you said that you previously, I watched you on separate shows, that you didn't grow up religious. Is that correct? Okay. But
Yeah,
Cindy,
so
yeah,
I did
yeah,
not.
okay. Yeah, okay. And but Jesus, I'm so sorry, guys. But I wondered, Cindy and Teo, were you guys raised Catholic? You weren't,
I
Cindy?
was.
You were. Okay. All right. So Teo, maybe you can relate to this a bit. Even though like I wasn't Roman Catholic, my father was. I went to Roman Catholic school. I went to grammar school, middle school, and high school at Catholic. And one of the things that was something that was always kind of thrown out as a caveat, and almost like it looked like a rite of passage, is confirmation. Like that is something that a lot of us were taught to look forward to. It's kind of like solidifying your space as the transitioning part of an adult.
Yeah, that's
It was up there with getting your driver's license a little bit. Teo, can you
yeah. I mean,
can you
confirmation
corroborate that?
is very important for the Catholic Church, because the
Yeah.
first time that you're baptized, you are a baby, so you have no
Mhm.
choice. But with confirmation, you're actually confirming your faith. You are
Right.
saying, yes, I was baptized as a baby, but now as an adult, well, as a teen actually, I
Mhm.
decide that this is the right religion and that I accept the baptism that was put on me when I was a baby. That's why it's
Yeah.
so important for people. I didn't get there because I got bored.
Yeah, but going back to that whole idea of how important it was and how it was taught to
Mhm.
kids, this is something that you should look forward to, because it's confirming your choosing this faith, right? And it's also showing that a maturity level in you because you've chosen this particular faith. And
Actually, let
yeah,
me stop you, because it's not choosing. You're not choosing. You are
no,
realizing, or you are accepting that is the right religion. That is kind of the confirming
okay.
idea.
Okay, okay, all right, all right. Well, I mean, well, when I'm using the words choosing, like it's kind of like, okay, you've been in this Catholic church for so long, maybe you're going to school, this is what you're being taught as the right thing, and then you're choosing to accept that this is the right thing. So that I'm using that in that particular format. But regardless of that, it's still taught to you that this is the proper way to go. So in some cases, because it is not in some cases, but in this case particularly, it's still a part of the machine of indoctrination. And because that is that, the Catholic Church in of itself knows that if we can kind of hook them in earlier, it may keep them longer, because we push it so much as this is the second sacrament that you will receive, because I believe there's seven sacraments in the Catholic Church. And first, of course, is baptism, which is not really baptism according to Protestants, because they're just like sprinkling water on you when you were a baby. So it's more like christening, but whatever, semantics, tomato, tomato. And then the second sacrament would be when you are roughly like around 12 years old, that you are going to be confirmed and you are confirming your faith, etc., etc. So since this is being taught that, this I see this more of a way to say that, okay, we're pushing this really hard. So in order to keep them, we're just going to kind of like hook them into confirming how important this is for them so that they can stay. Is that the general sentiment that we all pretty much got when we were reading this? If I'm wrong, I please correct me, but that's kind of what I got, that this is the important, this is being pushed as an important portion for the sacrament to be done earlier, so that it can keep them longer, because it's always been pushed as a sacrament that is something that's so important and appropriate for children to participate in, so that they won't depart from it when they're adults, and they bring their children in and their children in, and the circle of life continues. But I am of the mind that as more knowledge about how the universe works and how the world works and how people work, that it's less of a need for these particular institutions to be available for children in some shape, way, or form, because they are no longer the center of like education and learning, like the Catholic Church was for a very, very long time. I mean, like, I know I was taught that like going to Catholic school is the best thing ever for you. That's where you're going to get the best education. And that's going to be the thing that's going to open the doors of opportunity in order for you to actually move forward in your life with better high schools and better colleges. Not those nasty public schools. How dare you? But now that I see that most people are like, no, I'm not really feeling that, then they're kind of like just like falling away. And like the Catholic Church is like, oh no, please stay, please stay. I know that we fucked up a lot. We fucked up a whole lot, but we're getting better. We got Francis, right? He kind of woke, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say, at least the Catholic Church, largely does a little bit better on science than some Protestant denominations we have in the U.S., but that's not really saying much. But I do think that your analysis there is totally spot on. And I think I would just add that it's important to remember that, from my perspective, I see this as sort of like this manipulative indoctrination of like, oh, you're just trying to get your hooks in there before they can leave. And I understand that for the people in the Erie Diocese, they are genuine in their faith. They do think that what they're doing is going to be helping children. They genuinely do believe that this is their way to get children closer to God. But as Cindy pointed out, this ultimately will lead to a lot of trauma because these children will be, instilled with these beliefs and these dogmas that are inherently damaging to many people. It's I know that they think that they are just helping their community, and that is exactly what they're doing from their perspective. But I cannot I can't see a way that this will turn out well for everybody.
I agree.
If I can give,
Yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
sorry, if I can give you just a little bit of hope, in Western Europe, which is mostly Christian, for the people who are atheists, they are mostly Christian. Like my brother lives in Spain, which is still relatively religious compared to France or Belgium or other countries. There is still confirmation, but it's for the kids, it's just about the gifts.
Mm.
They receive a lot of gifts that day. They are the center of the attraction. It's about them. It's like a big birthday, basically. And so they pretty much don't care about the rest. So
You can receive gifts? That's weird.
Yeah. I got gifts on my confirmation, and I got a whole new white outfit. Go me.
We are being screwed down here.
Yeah, you guys are. Y'all need to talk to y'all diocese about that. But Teo, before we move on, I'm going to get the last word to you since you brought us into the segment.
Oh, well, all religions try to do this. Actually, I mentioned that example in the beginning because televangelists, they are trying to get children as well, even if they don't make it as obvious as the Catholic Church. And the reason why the Catholic Church has been losing children is because the Mass is long and boring. Compare it with the Jehovah's Witnesses. They go to your house, they teach you in a very straightforward ways I still remember my first book of biblical stories. They are very short stories with nice illustrations. They get your attention, catch your eye, and show you the nice part of the Bible that they want to show you. And that, as a child, it hooks you. And now they even have their cartoons, Sophia and Caleb. They try to teach you the Christian way of living, which is awful, by the way. women shouldn't study and stuff like that. Ugh. Well, but the thing is, the Catholic Church was left behind because of this. And as we mentioned, 67% of children don't get to confirmation and they just leave the church, and they are desperate. I like Genevieve's point of view that this is a silver lining. It means, oh yeah, they are losing people. The problem is that they realized and they are going to take action against it. So once again, we have to be careful about that.
I totally agree with everything that everyone said because all of you all are spot on.